And out of that, I ended up doing more training for circle sentencing, which of course is also under the umbrella of restorative justice. And we brought Kay Prentice down and Don Johnson, and they did a 4-day training session. And we do circle sentencings in court, and we've done 15 of those, which have been really neat. And that has been a really good program as well. And we also do true criminal mediations. I do those the last Thursday of the month at 7 p.m. for my city judges, the cases that they kick us, that they want us to do. And I do cases up in my court that we want to do. And so we are doing a lot of restorative justice type programs in our county, which is great. And as I said, we've never gotten bad press on it because I think people understand it and people are really wanting other things that can help them besides the usual stuff that doesn't work. When we did the circle training, I had to get another grant. And I have gotten 22 grants since I've been a judge, because I tell people there's money to be had, you just got to go out there and get it. And I write a lot of my own grants. And it's a pain, but I'll do it because it's worth it. But when we did the circle training, it was very interesting. We had a lot of lawyers who went through the circle training. So a lot of my circle keepers happen to be attorneys, which is really neat. And one of the circles that we did, which I just thought was so amazing, it was a robbery case. And we had 2 gentlemen that had gone into a beauty supply store on the other side of town, and they robbed the couple in there, which was a Korean couple. The man spoke broken English, the wife spoke no English, and they had 2 small children in the store. The third gentleman was the driver of the getaway car, and so he was the one that wanted to do a circle, and the Korean man wanted to do a circle as well. So what happened was I got a circle keeper, and in that circle, which you literally put the chairs in a circle and you have just the amount of chairs for the folks that you have, we had the defendant, the defense attorney, the defendant's mom, dad, the defendant's minister, and the defendant's cousin who worked for the Department of Corrections. And then we had the little Korean man, and his wife did not want to do the circle with him because she did not speak English. We had an interpreter for him, and we had the prosecutor, myself, and the circle keeper. And so I will never forget, we had the talking piece, which in a circle you can only speak when you have the talking piece. It's a very effective way to have a conversation, because if I say something that makes you mad, you would normally just lash out at me. But because you can't talk until you get that talking piece, it gives you time to calm down, to maybe think about what you want to say, and it's just a good way to have a conversation. And I remember in this circle, the talking piece is going around. And at one point, the little Korean man got the talking piece. And he said, "When I come here, I no care about you." And he points at the defendant. He said, "But," he goes, "since I've been sitting here," he said, "I know you, mom, dad, preacher, cousin." And he said, "When this happened to wife and I," he goes, "ever since then, we scared every time black man walk into our store." And I'm just sitting there thinking, wow. He said, "But now I know all of you." He goes, "I don't feel that way anymore." And I thought, whoa. So at the end of the circle, which they managed to get a consensus about what they wanted me to sentence him to, which is what I do. If the circle reaches a consensus, I give that sentence. But I remember when the circle was over, everybody was standing up. I was just kind of standing back watching. They were hugging, talking, and I thought to myself that night when I went home, if I had done a traditional circle or traditional sentence in court, where the defendant's standing on one side, the victim's on the other, the courtroom's packed. Okay, tell me, victim, in 2 minutes, what do you want to say? Defendant, do you want to say anything? I would never have known that that Korean couple is scared every time a black man walks into the store. How tragic would that have been for them to continue to be frightened by that? But they're not going to feel that way anymore. And that's what that circle did, that a regular sentence would never have done. And that was pretty neat. I mean, that's just an example. You know, I have lots of examples of things that have happened within a circle that I never could have had happen in a regular sentencing. So circles have been a good addition to this courthouse. So restorative justice, we started victim offender conferencing in 1999, and then the next year I took over as drug court judge, which I've been doing drug court since 2001. And part of my drug court, which is unique, I think, is their community service. They have to make quilts every Saturday with me. And after I check my trash people in at the jail and get them loaded up on their vans, I come over here to the courthouse and I meet my drug court folks, and we make quilts for babies that have been born from parents who've used drugs, HIV positive, fetal alcohol syndrome. And the first quilt they make goes to one of those babies, and then if they make a second or third quilt, they can make that for themselves or one of their children. And I have a few volunteers. One of them's my mom. She has no choice, but they help me on Saturdays, and I sit down here and quilt with them. And that has been the best program because, one, we have a very low recidivism rate. We've only had 2 of our drug court folks who have gotten back in trouble. And when we do our exit interviews at the end of the year, when they finish drug court, every single person has said that one of the most important parts of drug court has been that quilting program. And it is just a phenomenal program. You know, what I always say as a judge, and what always makes me laugh, is people fail to remember that we are dealing with human beings. Every human being is different. You sit in court and it's a sterile environment. You know, I have a black robe on, there's the lawyers, there's 5 million people in court, and we expect people to change in 2 minutes. And I always think, how stupid is that? You know, we know nothing about these people, their background, what's going on in their lives, but we expect them to change in 2 minutes. And when they don't, we act like we're so disappointed and upset. And I think, how ridiculous. And drugs, we know, is a problem with everyone. Either we know someone who has used drugs or a family member that's had a problem, but it's touched all of us in some way. And if it was so easy to get off drugs that we could just snap our fingers and say, I want you to be off drugs, wouldn't that be wonderful? But these are human beings, and it takes a little bit of time to give them a reason to quit using drugs, to find out what is it that triggers this. And so quilting is the chance for me to sit there with them on Saturdays and to really get to know these people on a one-on-one basis. I mean, Wednesday when I do drug court, they check in with me and I ask them, have you passed your drug test? Have you paid your monies? You know, have you done your AA, NA meetings? Have you gone to your chemical addiction program? All that. That takes me 5 minutes. But on Saturdays, we're sitting down there and we're talking.